recommendations. We went through our annual reorganization again, so Christina and I were reappointed to the committee. But as you know, as part of doing this, we also have to annually go back to the chair, electing a chair for the committee. So, and I'm open to leave the chairmanship, and anyone else can take it. As that will be fine.
Are you enjoying it?
It's very unusual that the chair of a committee in the town, at least I think, is at the same, a rep from the town in a committee is the chair of the committee. So I've received some comments about it. That's all. And it's unusual. That's all.
What was the last thing you said? It's unusual.
That it's unusual for a rep, town rep in a committee becomes the chair of the committee. I think this is the only committee where it's true.
Well, this committee this is not like a committee set in the structure of the town, like the planning board or the rec commission. It was started by Jim Scaley.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is different.
Yeah, the committee has also sort of raised into a different level of, although it's not a so-called official committee of the town or legal, whatever it is. It becoming more and more important within the town. So anyway, I'm just making the comment, and I'm not suggesting that, if you want me to continue doing it, I will do it for another year. Who knows? This year I think is the elections. I may not be elected, so re-elected. So who knows? Right?
If you're willing to do it, I'd say if I would be happy to nominate you to be chair again.
All right. If everybody's okay with it, that's fine.
I'll second that.
Yeah, okay. So I'll become the chair then. If anybody, All right. So that's gone. The main reason for the meeting is these recommendations that are coming from the zoning report done by Nan. So if you want to add, definitely Martha and Chuck added a number of recommendations. Gina sent another email saying these are my 2 cents, but there was nothing in it. So I don't know.
My 0 cents, my nonsense. No, I sent another email and all I did really was comment on some of the things that Martha had said. I think you should have that now. Just after the meeting started, Ray informed me that I hadn't put it on the attachment, so it should be there now. I mean, it's nothing earth-shattering. It's just some comments on things that Martha had said. I did, I read through carefully. I made my own notes on it, but I don't think I came up with anything original in recommending things.
Okay, so that once the comments sent by member of the committee are received, and now we just need to figure it out how we want to go through this. The commenting of the entire document. So Chuck, you had an idea of how you wanted to proceed with this?
It's just a personal preference, and I raised the possibility of starting with the zoning itself rather than the subdivisions. They're both important, but I think zoning is more immediately important. And in the at the beginning of my comments, I really was pleased that at the end of Nan's long set of recommendations and observations, that she took the time to comment, especially on housing. And there's really some terrific thinking in there. And, you know, I think with the different committees that are pitching feedback to either the planning board or the town board or both, there's going to be a lot of good thinking and tidying up. And I think that our job as a committee is, more than anything else, to really adhere to affordable housing and workforce family housing. And she actually does a very nice job of that at the end, and I'm grateful to her. So one thing that we haven't done in our previous meetings, at least that I can recall, is to decide how we want to proceed. Do we want to put together a kind of a formal set of recommendations, sift and winnow and take out what we don't want and retain what we do want, and allow for certainly additional feedback from anybody on the committee who hasn't yet taken the opportunity to do that? Could be very valuable. And by when and to whom. And then there's the real sticky issue of what the heck to do with the manufactured housing component. And I hadn't realized until the very end of my thinking on this that Nan is collapsing anything that is industrially produced. So that includes modular homes, for instance, with mobile homes. And that's actually problematic in the sense that lending institutions, governing institutions, and landlords, et cetera, put them in different categories: personal property versus real estate. On the other hand, the fact that she, as the town's consultant, actually did aggregate them into one category is in itself, I think, really kind of liberating, at least from my standpoint. You guys can tell me otherwise, but it seems that that's, to me, exactly the kind of thinking we need. If we're going to tell Varna that it needs to make space and allow mobile homes to be treated as stick-built single-family homes, then treating all manufactured homes the same, to me, is progress and progressive thinking, because we want more mobile homes and we don't want them hidden away in the middle of nowhere. We want them all around the town, as long as they meet other standards and pass the tests. So I don't know how to proceed with all of the information that's floating about. Craig, what do you think?
So let me pause at manufactured housing is treated as a single family house. New York state law requires that now.
Yep.
So that whole issue is gone. I mean, part of the rewrite is to make sure that our zoning law and definitions is in compliance with state law. Am I wrong, Ray? Is that?
That's correct.
That's one of the big goals in the rewrite.
Mm-hmm.
So the rewrites will say that manufactured housing can go anywhere in the town. You know, again, it's based on the health department requirements for, like all single family dwellings and duplexes. So I think that if I read you right, I think that question is sort of gone. You know, that'll be taken care of in the definition rewrite.
It is gone in terms of land use, in terms of financing and lending, mortgages. the Tioga Bank is the only outfit that's still treating mobile homes, as I know, as I hear it, as the same, the equivalent of a single family home on or off wheels. And other banks basically are not doing that. And so you have to get a personal loan. And that makes it less affordable for people that want to get into a mobile home, much less place it in Varna or down the street from me. It's I think in general, you're right. The momentum is in the right direction, Craig. And I
Yeah,
think that's been in
Martha.
place since 2015. So there's precedent.
Yep, Martha.
Gina had her hand up first, so go ahead.
Oh, I didn't see.
Thanks, Martha.
Sorry.
So I'm hearing myself from Ray's office. It's very strange. Chuck, I see your point in that conflating all manufactured housing does miss important aspects of the differences. I think the goal of the New York law is to prevent discrimination. But the law does say homes on permanent foundations. So the difference between a stick-built house and a mobile home is not so much that it's a mobile home, but isn't on a permanent foundation. So what do you do with those homes, mobile homes that are not on a permanent foundation? Those are not applicable to the single family home rules because of that part of the regulation. Another thing that I was thinking of was with the bank. I wonder if you could ask the bank, point blank, is this, how are you complying with the New York State regulations about manufactured homes being equivalent to stick-built, site-built homes on permanent foundations? That would be, I think that would be worth a conversation.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, I think that's, Gina, I think that's a good point about the foundation. I would just say that the zoning law doesn't have anything to do with lending. I mean, we're not
Right.
talking about lending practices. We're not talking about whether the prices are fair or what the park owners charge. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about the physical structures and how the state law and our zoning law treat them. So, I mean, if we want to continue to be advocates for mobile home owners, residents, great. Let's do that later. This is just about the physical realities and what the law says about the physical treatment and the treatment by the zoning authority.
I like that. I think we should go ahead and proceed pretty much through the lens that Nan gave us in her report and not split hairs about these other facets at the present time. So our comments can go straight forward, and if there are bumps in the road later on, whole communities everywhere are dealing with those stigmas, and our job is to get them included, right? As part of an inclusionary zoning mindset.
Craig,
Okay, and I'd say,
Craig
so-
was first.
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I agree with Chuck. I was gonna mention something similar to that. So you're splitting hairs on a lot of the things that we don't have control over. Permanent foundation. Some would argue that if you install a manufactured home in the state of New York, it's got to be cabled to a slab. That's a permanent foundation. So that, it's like, I think the issue in Dryden is you got to take the wheels and the tongue off. Then it has to be underpinned with something else. So, all that's going to disappear. I think that's part of the New York state law now. So you can't require that. So, but anyway.
Martha.
Yeah, I would just add that since we, for example, somewhere else in her comments or maybe our comments, we talk about that zoning, it's not the job of zoning to describe we want owner occupied over here and rentals over there. We're not talking about economic relationships. We're talking about the physical buildings. And you can have, you know, the same physical building be owned by a resident, by the person who lives in it, or rented by the person who lives in it. It's not relevant to zoning whether it's owned or rented.
Right.
So that's similar to what's the bank relationship to mobile home residents. So I think, anyway.
Martha, you probably went into this further and deeper than any of us. How would you kind of collect our thinking at this point and point us back to, Ray, are our recommendations ultimately going to the planning department or the planning board?
No, the planning board.
Planning board, yeah.
Yeah, so they will be the filter of a end product to recommend to the town board. So certainly, I would say, all the committees should be proactive, advocate for whatever tweaks and language you want to see in it. Ultimately, if the product that gets forwarded for recommendation still has any major, if you have a heartache with a facet of it, there would still be opportunity to make the argument before the town board.
So I think how to do this is an important question. So I thought, that's why I sent mine Tuesday morning. But I mean, I was sort of envisioning just kind of walk through the document I sent and the comments that I would raise the comments that I had, and we could deal with my comments. Then maybe we go and maybe we should, Gina, if yours builds on mine, then maybe we should start with yours so that we're looking at your comments together with mine as part of sort of a discussion. And then Chuck, I'm just looking at your email now. Your things are not built into the document itself, right? We'd have to look back and forth between your email and the document.
That's right.
Yeah.
In other
Okay.
words, I went page by page,
Yeah,
which is somewhat different. So let's do what you just suggested, Martha.
Well, I went page by page, but the pages I don't have a comment on, I didn't, I read
Right.
all the pages and just didn't comment on everything.
Correct. Yeah, I caught some things that I thought you didn't, and many, I read what you said and thought, right on, good that you are saying, emphasizing that we endorse that. And I guess, going back to my original question, what's our procedure for sort of endorsing your affirmation, Martha? Is today's meeting good enough so that we can, we go to such and such a place, here's what you say, and we then can say affirmative, we agree with that, let's move on.
I doubt we're going to get through all this today.
Correct.
One question I have is the timetable for the zoning board. I kind of wrote my comments as if it were the consensus of the group, and then proposing that, then to say, group, do you agree with this? How would you take this out altogether, or would you change what I've said? Whatever, so it seems to me, and things are, in a way, things are of a piece, like some comments refer to previous comments, etc. But I think a lot of them can be dealt with. Okay, we go to page 7, and what did I say on page 7? And here's the reason, and what do y'all think? And should we edit that, or do we accept that? And that becomes the committee's comment on that section, and then move to the next one. So, but then I also feel like at the end of going through all these comments, yours and Gina's and anybody else's, then somebody has to kind of take the whole thing and kind of put it together, maybe in a memo or something with a cover letter. So that working through what are the positions we agree on is the first step. And then mushing it into a product we can transmit to the planning board would be the next a following step.
So the planning board won't take this until next month, right, Ray?
They're going to have discussions at their meeting this month, but I assume it's going to be still acceptable to get comments to them in February.
Okay.
And then I know I kind of have a preference for embedded comments. I don't know how Craig feels about this and the rest of the planning board, but I think the efficiency of embedded comments just allows you to take the document, Nan's document, and then you can just pull up all the housing comments, and you could pull up all the ag committee's comments, and you can filter it in different ways. And you can see them all on top of each other if you wanted to deal with it that way. So I don't know, Craig, what do you think is the preference of the board?
I think that's a good idea. We did the comp plan that way, so yeah, why not?
Do you mean embedded comments, like I had the document and I
Yeah.
put the comment right next to the relevant piece?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shack comments though are done page by page and they're not embedded, right, Chuck?
That's right.
Right, but somebody could take the time and do that. Right?
Yep.
There's not, I mean, that,
For Chuck.
yeah, we could go to Chuck's document and go ahead and plunk them into the main document. But we don't have that right now.
No.
Okay.
I had another comment about process, and I'm wondering, Martha, if maybe we could take a step back to see that we understand everything that she's saying about housing. So I did create a document that I tried to encapsulate everything that she was saying so that we make sure that we understand what she's saying first, and then we could say whether we think that's a good idea or needs revision or something like that. You know what I mean? I think you're like a step ahead of us, ahead of beginning the process with the recommendation.
Are you saying you sort of stepped back and took a broader view and summarized what you saw Nan proposing for housing?
Right. And that maybe to just go over the things that she said or that I understood that she said, and we can discuss that and then go on to your level 2 of, making recommendations. I don't know. It depends what the group wants to do. That's just an idea that I have.
Is that what you sent us just now? That's something different.
So we
Okay.
haven't seen that document.
You want to see my notes? Is that what you would like
I mean,
to see?
it's already 2:30.
Yeah. So
I don't feel, I feel like we shouldn't waste time reading something for the first time in a committee meeting.
shall we you want to have another meeting before February then?
Yeah, but I
Maybe.
think people need to we need to actually do the work in between the meetings.
Yeah.
Which is why I hoped to get it to you earlier, but at least I got it to you yesterday morning. In order to make some kind of progress here, I mean, let's open my document or Gina's document. You say, Gina, your document shows, I'm not talking about the overall memo. I'm talking about the memo where you built on my comments, right?
Yeah, I said that. Everyone has that.
Okay. All right, two things. One is, do you think you can summarize and just tell us what you think Nan was saying about housing as a way to start? And then maybe we walk through your document and look at your comments and mine together and discuss each one and say, okay, we agree with that or we don't agree with that.
Whatever way everybody wants to proceed is fine with me.
Well, let's start at the top. And since the two of you have worked in reference to each other, Martha, you didn't have Gina's, but Gina had yours. And let's jump in and Martha, take us to your first intervention. And Gina, if you have something prior to that, speak up. And if you don't, speak to Martha's when we get to her points. And just we'll continue to cycle through it from beginning to end. Hopefully we can get the comments from the two of you largely digested today.
Gina, do you have items before page 7, for example?
No, she doesn't have.
Not in my comments in connection with yours, Martha. I just, again, I pinned those comments just to what you said. But you're talking about my notes. Yes, my notes are broader than that. But I think everybody just wants to go on to your comments and we can
Well,
go there.
how long is this other memo you wrote?
Well, it's not a memo, it's just notes. I just have like 7 pages double spaced notes.
Okay, we can't
Yeah, that was.
deal with that right now. All right, what if we, all right, and
So
again, your document has,
I just wrote it for my understanding, frankly, so that I would understand it.
okay, I
Right.
mean, we have to set that aside. We do the homework of reading it before the next meeting.
Right.
If I would suggest we walk through your version of Nan's documents that would therefore show your comments and mine together, right?
Yeah.
We walk through that, and if you want to talk about, if we get to a space where you want to mention something that's in your memo or in your notes, then obviously bring it up. But in order to make any kind of progress here, it seems like we have to start with the document that at least has your comments plus mine. And Chuck, if you have, obviously, if as we walk through these pages, you have yours available, you can say, oh, well, here's what I thought. Then,
Okay.
you know, add your piece in, I think, right?
So, Martha, would you like me to share the copy of that document?
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm turning on my second big monitor so I can see. Yeah, I think that makes sense for you to do that.
Okay.
It has to be big enough to see.
Whoops. Can see it.
Kind of small or not visible at all?
It's very small. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everybody has this in Gina's most recent email, so if you want to
Yeah, I think it would.
screen,
Yeah.
we can adjust it.
Yeah.
So, you want to start, Martha, talking about
Yeah.
parks, open spaces, and natural features?
Yeah, I got too many things here. Does yours just say audit report comments? Is that the title of yours?
Yes.
Yes.
So we should be on page 7, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So given this, we would urge that this section be clarified to better express the need for balance between preservation of natural features and residential development rather than to prioritize preservation of all natural features. And Gina, you wrote perhaps preservation of the most salient natural features, or preservation of the unique environmental qualities, or preservation of those features most important to preserving the town's rural character.
Instead of all, frankly, because she says all.
Right, and that's my worry, is that becomes a license for we dare not cut a tree down,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, it can be read that way. Can be read that way.
Okay, so then the question is, do we sort of broadly all agree with that this should be
Qualified.
qualified, a little bit more qualified, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So I would be happy, Gina, to work with you on like exactly how we wordsmith these things. We don't have to. We don't have to do that right here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But what we should do
Yeah.
is get agreement that we're all on the same page and trust that the two of you will wordsmith it, but the
Yes,
sentiment is shared.
Mhm.
right.
I'm happy to do it, but I'm not trying to take over the process. So anybody else who would like to do that, please feel free.
Well, if you want to take the first stab and then I'll review it before we send it back to the committee.
Yep.
All right.
So, so some of that language is already in the zoning law, just FYI, so. Because they mandate, old trees, size of trees. So you'll find it in the subdivision law as well, so we're not supposed to cut certain trees certain trees should be kept, that's, it's there.
Well, that's a good thing, right? So we're actually going to be more consistent with the changes that Gina and Martha are proposing.
And I doubt, was any of that gonna get removed in the first rewrites, Ray? I kind of doubt it.
Maybe not the first, but it certainly should be on the table for discussion.
Right,
Yeah.
but the conservation word will be coming up with those kind of,
Yeah, but I think it's
Yeah.
appropriate for this committee to push back on the all
The
encompassing
all
language.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm making some notes here, and Gina, I'll save mine as your the name of yours version 2. So, what's going on?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, just putting Gina's comments into parentheses at the beginning, your first paragraph, Martha, that's a great way of combining it and moving
Okay.
on.
All right.
Yeah.
it spells out your concerns, so,
Mhm.
Okay. So Gina, you and I will work on this some more then. Okay.
Sure.
All right. My next comment was on page 13. All right, recommend that the zoning specify the environmental features that need to be included in the green space. Is this the same thing?
Yeah.
Well, it's the type of green space.
Oh, okay. If you click on the comment box, then it shows the whole comment, right?
Yep.
Okay,
That is,
all right.
I think that's it.
I'm a little lost. Help me with where we are in the comments. We're on page 13.
Yeah.
H.
Yep.
Looks like 7, no? We're still on 7.
6H.
Age. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We agree that this point and encourage that each project should not be required so much green space. All right. All right. Boy, this is awkward. Are you on page 7? Still?
Page 13.
Page
13.
13, okay.
Mm.
Go in there. Got it. Okay, so what I was doing here was trying to just bolster some points that could be controversial and that we're saying that we agree with this thing,
Mhm.
the point that she's made. Okay.
Yep.
And so Gina, you're basically agreeing with this and adding to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The kind of green space. Okay. And then the next one, minimum lot size, the issue of lot size and density on the lot. the idea here is that if you've got, if you're requiring relatively less density, if you're prohibiting density on a lot, if you're reducing the lot coverage, you're saying, I'm making up numbers here, you say it can only be 30% coverage on the lot because we want to preserve green space. What that does is create a very suburban type development. It means that every house is surrounded by a private park that's not accessible to anybody else, but just increases the price of the building, of the home. If what you want is green space that everybody can use, then you really want to look at the neighborhood and say, okay, as a whole, we want to preserve public space and like identify certain areas that we want to make sure are going to be kept open that anybody can use. But density of housing on the lots does not provide public greenery. So that's what I was trying to say here. She says a minimum lot frontage of 45 for all uses in Varna may be too large. And what are they trying to achieve with lot frontages, et cetera? So she says consideration should be given to lowering this. And so I'm agreeing with that.
I agree with that.
All right. All right. And then K is sort of agreeing with her point there. All right. And again on 7A, we strongly agree. Let's see. Okay. This is about ownership status. All right. Gina, you write, the consultant has identified that the designation of the mixed-use commercial district is problematic and that it prioritizes commercial uses. She suggests changing it to mixed use, which seems a better vantage point from which to formulate how housing fits in. Reducing the needs for SUPs for residential applications seems like a good idea. All right, I agree with that. Anybody else?
Is there a downside to that from the standpoint of the planning office? It seems like a good idea to me.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a downside.
Okay.
You're not seeing a downside?
Nope.
Okay. Actually, Gina's, your comment is not exactly on the ownership
Right.
point.
I think we picked up on different
Yeah.
points that the consultant made.
Yeah, so she's her comment in A is about ownership. And she says, so this could be simplified. All right. Actually, I didn't realize that about mixed use commercial versus mixed use.
Yeah, she does say that. Where does she say that? And where somewhere, if you wanted to find it in the document, she does talk about mixed use versus mixed commercial use.
Mhm.
Yeah, regardless of what you call it, it's all in the definition. So however we define the term in our law.
MC should be mixed use. Currently SUP, whoops. You want to go back to the definitions you were showing?
Oh, sorry.
Click on the document that's below. Yeah. Currently SUP.
I lose it. Mixed use.
Um,
All right, don't move.
Okay.
Mixed use currently requires special use permit for all the residential uses allowed. This should not be the case. Should not require. All right. This doesn't, is there?
That's her point. Sorry, I don't have a reference within the document to where she says that, but that was a summary of something that she said.
About mixed use versus mixed use commercial?
Yes.
All right, well, let's put a pin in that and come back to it somewhere.
Ray,
And also,
isn't that- that's
she's
mostly-
referencing the town there, whereas Varna actually has not an SUP requirement for mixed use within Varna.
It does or doesn't?
It doesn't require SUP.
Yeah.
All right, at any rate, on these comments, and Gina, you you and I can easily come back to this. Your comment is not exactly to the point.
Well, it's a more general comment when she's talking about mixed use.
Yeah, so we can move on to the next page.
Yep. Yep.
All right, we agree what? All right, agree that allow greater density. The next comment, again, we just agree.
Martha, if we could go back to D and E real quick on that.
Which one?
E&E.
D and E, rural residential and rural ag, right?
No, D&E. Yeah.
D and E, yeah, they talk about, duplexes are only allowed in rural residential, rural ag, not in the conservation district, so. I mean, that, if you're gonna open up more housing and more development, you should open it up townwide, not. I mean, this has been an issue for 10, 12 years, so. The division between the two zones, the conservation district and the rural ag district, so. So this will come up again and again and again, so,
But there doesn't say anything here about conservation district.
no.
Nope.
No,
In the residential rural and rural ag districts, I recommend allowing 2-family units as a permitted use and adding 3 and 4 units with a modified site plan as discussed in this report. Are you saying, what are you saying?
why shouldn't it be townwide?
Across all districts.
Yeah, okay. Good, so
Alright.
let's add that comment there.
That would be E as well.
In the room, subject was confusing as to.
So for D&E.
7D and E.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Top of page 14. So you'll insert that comment, Gina, you're typing in there? Okay, great. All right, so F, I was like, I just wasn't sure about this one my own self, but I thought we better talk about it. 2 dwelling per acre density, especially when spread out, or is not going to result in rural character farmland or preserved environmental conditions. And this is where she says, she said she would like to see 10 acres per lot. Like, whoa. I mean, I don't know. What do you all think?
Well, my first reaction was sort of like horse trading. If we're gonna densify some districts, maybe it makes sense to be more conservation minded and elsewhere. And then I started thinking differently about it. That if we have conservation districts, but later on when she's talking about land unit developments, it seems to me that it's actually pro-conservation if you allow development on what could be less than 10 acres, but concentrated it. You can have your cake and eat it too, conservation and denser housing.
I'm
So,
sorry, say
if-
that.
Go ahead. I see where Chuck's going with this, yeah. So when the zoning law was first written, it had large lot zoning. And then in farmland, you had pushback from the agricultural community. So I don't see them going for this. They're gonna say, we want to be able to put a house on an acre of land if we want to sell a lot, so. I mean, you could recommend maybe doing conservation subdivisions on some of the, cluster them up, but to put it, you're going back to large lots. I just don't.
Where is she proposing this be?
It's to preserve environmental and farmland. So sensitive areas, so probably UNA's, agriculture, view sheds, which is another nightmare. That's the get into.
Well, should we say, I mean, it seems like it should be specified where.
But she's got it, rural character, farmland, preserved environmental conditions.
Craig, when you made the comment that there could be pushback by the farming community, that they would not look kindly on larger acreage requirements. Where's it going with that? Do you think
Blame them from a personal property rights point of view?
Well, assuming that were the case within the agricultural community, I don't know. Am I right that our agricultural footprint has diminished over the years since the zoning ordinance was first written and then revised in 2015 or whatever it was? Do we have less and less farmland?
I think you've got more.
Okay.
It's consolidated. The big dairy farmers have all consolidated, but I think there's actually more land being farmed. I mean, it was around 13,000 acres. I don't know what it is now.
Okay.
And there are fewer farmers, but
More
Okay.
land, yeah.
Okay.
And Bex is getting ready to double their herd count, so I mean, they're gonna need more land to produce on, so somewhere they found some more land to grow on. That's not, so.
And the likelihood is that even these large owners want to preserve the right to sell off marginal lots, and therefore the smaller lot size is what they're gonna prefer. Okay.
Or deed it to a family member or a worker.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is to preserve it. I'm not opposed to preserving farmland and environmental areas, but you're gonna get pushback from a farmer to say, why do I have to bundle 10 acres together to sell to, when everybody else can do an acre, so.
Mhm.
That's all. So
the way this is written, is she saying that currently it says 2 dwellings per acre?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. I mean, that doesn't even meet the health department requirements. Where there's no sewer, you have to have an acre, one dwelling per acre.
Wow.
Well, I think she might be referring to dwelling units here, because you could put a duplex or a single family on a 1 acre.
Okay,
That was another confusion she brought up, is that the interchanging of dwelling and dwelling units in the zoning law.
So in this, I would say, you know, we would encourage more cluster development in these areas, you know, and don't recommend a minimum, you know, a large lot. This question will apply to a large lot.
Yeah.
I,
Do you want me to put a comment in here, and if so, tell me how to phrase it?
I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
if we're in agreement of that, I mean, to me, makes more sense than trying to put pressure on it.
Do you agree with her recommendation?
No, we agree. We're thinking that instead of large lots, you would encourage cluster development.
so in other words, that,
But that 10 acres could put 10 houses on it, so.
10 are you saying 10 acres for 10 houses, but they should be clustered together?
Yeah, or nothing wrong with 10 houses on 10 acres even, so.
Did I
yeah.
put in that about the comment about marginal land? Is that important for the reasoning?
Well, it sort of states where you, I mean, the farmers aren't gonna use their marginal land, so yeah, you know, you should try to make them build on marginal land if you can. You know, so,
What does marginal land mean?
well,
Too
stuff that
steep, whatever.
No,
steep soils aren't very well. I mean,
I mean, I guess what I would suggest we put some qualifiers in parentheses there, because every time you add a new term, gets debated, right?
oh, I will just leave it instead of large lots, encourage cluster development. Just leave it at that. Boom, done.
Uh-huh.
Leave it at that. Because large lots isn't gonna help anything. What's housing?
Yeah,
It's not gonna help housing.
no, it just makes,
Cost more.
right, it just increases the price because somebody has to buy 9 extra acres. All right. Good. Boy, I did this Monday and now I can't remember what I wrote.
well, I'm glad you flagged that one, Martha. That was useful to really think about. You know, it seems like we could side with the farming community for smaller acreage, and with the conservation community for larger acreage, but allowing or encouraging, what's the word, incentivizing cluster development.
Mm-hmm.
So Gina and Martha, can we go to G, the next one, or is there more that people want to say about F? I'm raising G because I had a comment on it.
Good. I think we're done with F, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just note that there's not a lot in her report about water, groundwater or surface. And I think it's terribly important, both because her point there, I guess I want to say that we strongly agree. As the town builds population and density, we're very water conscious, of course, either piping the water or whether it's groundwater. And then there's climate change. I think, 20 years from now, when people revisit the zoning ordinance and amend it, whatever they do to it, water is going to be central to how we think about lot size and densification, et cetera. My point is, I wish she'd said this and more about water.
Well, again, the health department has, what they do, a flow test, right? Before you build a new
Mhm.
home. You have to punch a little hole and see how quickly it fills up.
Test, percolation test, yeah.
Right. Thanks. That was the word I was looking for.
Mhm.
So, are you saying, Chuck, that like on this point, we want to just kind of highlight it and say we really want to make sure? I mean, there've been aquifer studies going on for 25 years, so that information exists. What are you laughing at, Chuck?
No, I'm laughing.
Huh?
Yeah, I was laughing at the aquifer study, yeah.
Why?
No, because they have been going on for 25 years. Yeah.
They have or have not?
They have been, yeah, they have been. I
Right,
mean,
so
why wouldn't we just encourage the more expansion of public water I mean,
More
she's
well,
not
that
really,
Mhm.
she's not really saying anything here, but we could add to it and say, yeah, we agree that there's no public water existence in some of the more rural areas of the community, and it could be helpful for, Varna or Etna and those areas, and it would also be would help for fire protection as well.
I don't know. I think if we're looking at nodal development, we're looking at optimizing the infrastructure that exists. There's no way the whole town is going to have public water. We
No.
can't, there's no way to do that. Even we looked at this, I don't know, 10 years ago in Ellis Hollow because people were complaining about the quality of their water. And, once you have relatively spread out housing, the cost to bring in public water is just prohibitive. And so, because you just don't have and aren't going to get the density needed to support new public water. I think we can go a long way towards densifying where we already have infrastructure and strategically extending infrastructure out from the places where we already have it. But I think, if we're talking about basically rural areas, we're not going to get, and it shouldn't be a goal to be looking at
More
broadly
infrastructure.
carpeting the town with public water.
But water is the least expensive public utility you can bring out. Sewer is a whole different can of worms. But you can get grants for fire protection for water. You can get, it's not just for hooking up homes.
I would like to really push on nodal development as a strategy here. It's by far the most cost effective. It then supports housing units that are relatively cost effective. Anytime you add new infrastructure, that has to be built into the cost of the housing. And if we're really trying to push affordability,
Okay.
there's a lot of capacity. There's a lot of space in the town to do that where we don't have to create whole new infrastructure. May extend like Hanshaw Road, we may extend it from across the road from where it already is, but I don't want us to be creating new water districts out of whole cloth. That's me, that's my point of view. All right, so our comment.
Ray, can you tell me, is the reference here to the town's groundwater study, is that something recent or years ago?
Probably 3 years ago now.
Okay,
So it pointed out some difficult aquifers, but it wasn't really specific enough that we could zone around it. But we could just acknowledge that some areas are not, aren't going to be good enough quantity to support dense development.
mhm.
So that's the usefulness of the aquifer study.
So I would support that middle sentence in your comment, Gina. I would not support that. But maybe we need to vote, and maybe we should specifically all right, she references the groundwater study. So that's good. All right, I mean, without the middle sentence, I would be happy with that comment, but I'm just one voice here. Any objections to that, to deleting the middle sentence?
I'm okay with that.
Okay. All right, great. All right, so now we're on to H.
So a lot of people are misunderstand what the conservation district is really for. So that would be my comment there. Conservation district, everybody thinks it's to conserve some sort of a tree or element. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of unique features in the conservation district, but it was really meant to conserve land for future generations.
Mm.
So it takes on a whole different meaning when you think of that. So.
So can you explain her comment then?
Well, her biggest concern is these lots aren't, they're the 1 acre lot isn't big enough to do conservation on. So it's, I mean, so she's thinking that the conservation district holds environmental sensitive areas, and they're not all. I mean, half the town is conservation district, so.
Okay. So my comment is we recommend that NR not be limited to 1 dwelling per 3 acres. It should be higher density than the conservation.
So it's mostly the conservation district. Neighborhood residential was pretty dense. What's the density for neighborhood residential, Ray? Do you remember off the?
Well, in town-wide, it's still 1 acre minimum lot size.
But neighborhood residential.
Yeah. The frontage is a smaller frontage requirement, so in that sense, it's a denser development.
And it was like, it was one definition was 6 and one was 7, I think, for neighborhood residential.
I'm sorry, Ray, I couldn't hear you. What'd you say?
I said
Right.
I think the density for neighborhood residential is either 6 or 7 units per acre. So I don't know where
That's in Varna.
No, that's townwide. Those are in the overlay districts of neighborhood residential. Like outside the village, up above the town hall, those areas. If it had, if it had water and sewer access,
Right.
you could,
Well, with public water and sewer, density for all the lots goes to 4 per acre. Goes to 10, from 1 acre to 10,000 square foot.
I can get my book out. But yeah, there's a, anyway, doesn't matter, but my point being that it's what she's thinking is conservation is not really, it's more, it should be to conserve property, to conserve land is what that whole district was set up for. So.
Well, so what do you think we should say on this? Craig?
You're not gonna do anything, well,
Is this similar to our discussion above about the 10-acre recommendation that,
yeah,
we're really pushing back on that and saying that's not the goal, it's cluster development.
yeah, yeah, I think Ray's right, just put the, recommendation would be to the conservation subdivision, if you can get somebody to build it, is actually the perfect model, because it would set aside, the wetland or the pond, and then it'd open up more land to build on the, so, but that's probably the same thing would be just more cluster development instead of large lot development, so.
The way I read this and what we just said about neighborhood residential, it seems like she doesn't understand that at all.
I don't think she does, yeah.
I mean, if neighborhood residential is 4,
But-
I heard you say 4 units per acre.
If it's got sewer and water,
If it's gotta have waters, yeah.
yeah. All of our districts have a 1-acre minimum lot size, neighborhood residential and conservation. Except for all of them have 10,000 square foot minimum lot size if it's sewer and water.
Okay, and 10,000 square feet is 4 units per acre.
Yep. So a
Um,
recommendation we might want to make at some point is to put in a density, not just for sewer and water, but for water only.
Because the health department rule is for sewer.
Oh, for septic.
I think that's a really interesting point. So, so 4 per acre with water and sewer.
Mhm.
By the way, couldn't it be even denser than that? Why not? I heard you say 6 or 7 in Varna.
Yeah, we go up to 14 or at least 11 or 12 dwelling units per acre for Varna density.
Yeah, so why not that?
That's not for single family units, though.
No, that's for townhouses.
It's like 7 for single family, or maybe it was 8. Was it 8?
Well, even single family has 12 dwelling units per acre in the residential. Yeah.
All right, say that again. In Varna, single family is 12 units per acre.
Yep.
All right. That wherever there's water and sewer, that should pertain. Right? That's kind of the point.
Mm-hmm.
We have water and sewer in the nodes. That's kind of the definition of a node. And that's where we want to allow greater density.
Yeah, so you would say just, yeah.
All right. You got that? Capture all that, Gina.
Martha,
Yeah.
on page 14, where you have your hypertext in I,
Are you moving us off something else to something else, Chuck?
I thought I was where
We're still
everyone
in
was.
H.
Just hold on. Let's like kind of settle this. All right.
Okay,
Density should be greater wherever there's water and sewer.
It should be or.
I mean, you can,
I wouldn't combine them. I would keep them separate, because you can get down to half acre lots with water and septic system, or vice versa, so.
well, so the health department will let you do that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. And we might add to that, Gina, if you said density should be greater wherever there's water and or sewer. For example, we can say, for example, Varna zoning allows 12 units per acre for single family homes that, yeah,
Well, it allows a density of 12 units.
allows density of 12 units. 12 units, it doesn't matter for single family or whatever, but now I guess it does matter compared to apartments. You know, the point here is there's no reason. My point would be there's no, if that's good enough for Varna, it should be good enough for any place where we have the infrastructure to support that housing. Okay. Just to be clear, so Craig, are you saying, so tell me what it could be if you have just sewer?
What it could be in Varna?
No, anywhere. I mean, what's special about Varna?
What's a reasonable number of single family dwellings or houses? I mean, 12, you're allowed 12 in Varna, right, for dwelling, for units right now, so. I mean, with the bonuses, so
But that's with sewer and water, is it
Yeah.
not?
that's with sewer and water, yeah.
Right, so Ray,
Right.
Gina, whoever
Well-
wants to weigh in.
And Ray, what the PUD by the Fox Bridge, what was that density? What did that end up coming out at?
So that's 42 units on 6.7 acres, so 6 units per acre.
Yeah. And Ivy Ridge they pushed that one to like to 12, didn't they?
Yeah, that was even 14, I think, because it
Oh,
was 42 units on 3 acres. Yeah, 14.
I mean,
14.
when you get into single family, when you start getting into 7 units or 8 units, single families you're talking 7,000 square foot lot size, which is pretty small.
Okay, here's the thing. I'm sorry if this is the education of Martha Robertson while everybody else is watching. The Again, ownership shouldn't matter. It's like
No.
how many people live in a unit.
Yep.
And if a single family home assumes, let's say, 4 people using the toilet and the tap, is that what we're talking about? Or is it really a distinction without a difference? I mean, if you've got 8 townhomes, the only meaningful difference is that they're attached to each other. You still have the same number of people as 8 single family homes using the toilet and the tap, right?
Right. So I think dwelling units is the currency for allocating sewer.
Okay, so in some places in Varna, we have 14 per acre.
Mhm.
They have water and sewer.
Mhm.
Is that the maximum we have in the town?
Yeah,
All right, so we want to say if you've got both kinds of infrastructure, you can go up to 14 per acre. If you have water only, how many per acre?
we don't make that distinction.
So. So
Do
you're back.
you,
But if you don't have sewer,
Mhm.
Does
So,
it
so
change?
it should just say maximize the density wherever we have water and or sewer. And then leave your example. Does that make sense?
okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right, and shouldn't that density be 14, not 12? In
I'm
that
not seeing
example.
14, Ray. Am I looking in the wrong place?
Well, no, you can look, I'm looking in the Varna table and the highest density number is either looking at single family in the residential district at 12, and then you can get a
Townhouse,
redevelopment bonus of 2 and a redevelopment bonus of
Ah.
1. So you can actually get up to 15.
15, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, with senior housing, you have 11, and then you can get 2 for green development and 2 for redevelopment. So again, 15 seems to be the number that, but this was just the concept back in, 2012.
Mm-hmm.
But you should maximize density on water and sewer, so why not?
That's kind of
Yeah.
like
Wherever it is.
that. The big takeaway I have here in all of this should be a theme, if we've got the infrastructure, let's really use it.
Yeah. And I think that's appropriate for the housing committee to make that push. And then the planning board is probably going to, moderate it and say, well, truly on 366, as we go between Varna and NYSEG, even though it has water and sewer, that may not be appropriate to be that heavily developed, or, they can modify it and come up with other factors that need to be factored in.
Right. But if that's the standard, if you're setting the bar,
Mhm.
if you're setting the policy as maximize density wherever you have the infrastructure,
Mhm.
Mhm.
then you're instead of trying to scrape up from 4, you're allowing yourself to come down from 15 if you have to.
It would be
All right.
allowed by right too, so maybe that should be included. Do it.
Uh-huh. So you're saying in the Varna, well, the 15 is not by right, because you have to get the density, you have to be approved for a density and a green development bonus, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
But it's still allowed.
Okay.
I don't think we've ever turned anybody down, have we, Ray?
I think we've worked most of them into pursuing those,
Yeah.
both those bonuses. So it gives us some leverage to get the greener development.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, okay, 12 by right. That you're saying in Varna, it's 12 by right. You can get 3 more with those bonuses, right?
Mhm.
Okay, got it. Good. Thank you. Now, Chuck, where did you want to go? You want to go
Let's just keep going.
Okay,
Maybe we can do one more.
all right. My question here is not exactly a comment. I see that later on in the document, she does suggest adjustments to the concept map that's in Dryden 2045. So what she's saying here, I mean, she's not really, she's just making a statement. She's not really
Yeah. That's the way
suggesting
I read
anything.
it.
All right. So do we want to say anything here? How about we say, zoning. I mean, I guess we don't have to say anything, because she's gonna say it later.
Well, sometimes she references something that's yet to come, and we could do that here. Just put it
Mhm.
parentheses and move on, knowing that it's going to come up.
Right, we could just say, we support comments. I guess when we get there, we have to decide if we do, but this relates to notes on page 29 under comments. Actually, what if we just take out that first sentence in my comment?
Right there.
If we just say here, our comment is the housing committee would actually prefer some adjustments from what we see in Dryden 2045. See our notes on page 29.
Yeah,
Okay, so that could be pasted into a comment instead of the question here, but we can fuss with that later. Okay,
so I want to call time for a second. I'm going to have to jump off at 3:30, and Leonardo said something about perhaps an extra meeting this month so that we are.
That's what I was thinking. If we want to finish have a document by February to, ready to be sent off to your planning board.
mm-hmm.
Well, our next meeting is on the 5th, which is before the next planning board meeting, so,
I thought you said the planning board meeting meets in January.
well,
mean-
we meet next Thursday, a week from tomorrow. But I doubt we're gonna do anything, right? Well,
The planning
Right.
board meets tomorrow,
Right.
a week from tomorrow.
But you think that you're not going to be discussing this, or you're not going to be for sure you're not going to be making any decision.
no, because did you put out an RFP for the planner,
No,
for a consultant? Because
no,
we don't have a
but-
consultant yet, so.
Nope.
For the next phase of the right, so.
So you think we can wait until the first week of February?
I think so. What do you
Yep.
think, Ray? Yeah, I think
Yep.
so.
I'm comfortable with
I
that.
think we probably have 2 months to do this, and,
All right, because until we have a consultant.
right,
You're saying their next step is to hire a consultant before they even review what Nan has done.
Right.
Okay.
So our next meeting will be then the first Wednesday of February.
The 4th.
So we have all this time to sort of go over this again.
So we can all read through Gina's comments that she's added to mine. Like, so we've got you're gonna send us what we've been working on today.
Yeah, sure.
So we can read through the rest of it, and we can read Chuck's.
Yeah.
And send us your notes too, Gina, so we know
Okay.
what, and everybody has
Is-
homework to do then.
Can Chuck's comments be added as well, or to the document, embedded in the document rather than have it apart?
Yeah,
So
that could be done. I don't mind doing that. I think I would do it in a separate document because we're gonna get really confused. Let's finish going through this one.
Hey, Chuck, if you want to come into the office, I can help you do it so that it's less confusing. It has your name on it instead of somebody else's name on it.
I accept.
Great,
Thank you.
perfect,
Perfect, thank you.
perfect. Good. In the meantime, Ray and Gina, you I assume work with the planning board, right? I mean, you can let them know we're working on comments,
yeah.
Yeah.
and they're gonna be brilliant.
The planning
Yes.
board or the
Goes
comments?
without saying.
Martha, I will tell them that, okay?
Remember that we have Craig.
Brilliant, I'll write that down, brilliant.
Is that 2 R's in brilliant?
I think, I mean, one comment I would have is that we discussed last month that we thought it would make sense to have Nan redo be the one to take it the next step, but obviously if they want and maybe have to do an RFP, then that's what they gotta do, right? They
That
have
was-
to do it,
That was my understanding. They had to do it, yeah. So-
okay. So we had also on the agenda, we had it past the minutes, right?
Right.
The minutes can be, well, yeah, we can pass the minutes for as they are, with the changes made in the last 2 weeks. I can't remember now, but
Yeah, there are 2 months worth. I would move, I do have one question, and it was about that, a comment about 10 people from 40 mobile homes.
Martha changed it, to like just 10 residents of the park.
yes,
I believe that's what it is.
that's
There
what
are,
it is.
all of those residents came from the park, which had a total of 40 mobile homes.
Oh,
The total number of units is 40.
On a
got
very-
it.
Yeah,
Okay, well, that's kind of useful because that says you had 25% of the park was represented.
Yeah.
Do you want me to kind of rework it to kind of say that?
If you can, so it makes sense, that'd be perfect.
Okay.
Okay. Great. All right, then with that. with
Yeah,
that said,
I'll move it to send
I'll second
Okay.
both of them.
everyone.
Oh.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, okay, there you
So
go.
Lauren, I'm yes
Passed.
to the first minutes, and I'll abstain to last month's minutes, okay?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't there.
Okay.
All right, thanks for doing all that, Lauren. It's, really great summaries. I did. I'm a note taker regardless, so I really did check with my own notes, and you did, you really did a great job. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, guys. So
right.
until next month.
All right, thanks a million.
See you.
Thank you.